Dean Curry here, Fantasy Football RSVP. So let's get right to it with the AAF Week 7. Wow, the season's just flying by. After Week 8 starts the Fantasy Football Playoffs, and you got to start thinking about who you're going to load your team up and who you're going to have on your team come playoff time, either on waiver wire or you have to pick these guys up on the trading block. And who would be available right now on the waiver wire? A lot of the best players are taken, but I really like Tim Cook of the Arizona Hotshots. In fact, I like some of the players on the Hotshots team. I think they have a good defense. They're going to be coming on very, very strongly as the season goes on. I think they're going to surprise some people. They're a very well-balanced team. They have some organizational, problems going on with the team right now, but they're going to figure that out, and I really like the Hotshots coming in. If Zach Stacy is still available of Memphis, I would pick him up for a few reasons. You have another great pickup at quarterback. You have Johnny Manziel. He's going to come in. I don't know how much he'll play this week. We have to monitor it, watch it. They want to start him. They want to put him in, but, we'll keep an eye on that. But if he's going to play, I would pick him up, on the waiver wire, definitely, because they want to showcase him. And when you have a mobile quarterback like a Johnny Manziel, not just a guy who can run, but a guy who can actually move in the pocket and run around, it causes a great deal it basically causes a catastrophe for the defense. And usually when you have a mobile quarterback, it helps the running game. And that's only going to help Zach Stacy with his running game. And his numbers have tailed off just slightly the last few weeks. He might be available on the waiver wire. He might be a trading target. Pick him up, because just like, the NFL and other leagues, when you have a mobile quarterback, and this is what we do at our company. We think outside the box, and I always say that. But when you have a mobile quarterback, it always helps the running game, because there's just too many things that the defense has to think of. And they have to keep people home and running and this and that, and it just opens up holes for the running backs. And so, a lot of times the defensive backs, especially linebackers, can't really play up on the line because they don't know, they spy the quarterback, but in doing so, they don't load the front line, and that's sort of what opens up things for the running back. Because as linebackers will sit there and watch and wait to see if the quarterback's going to throw or if he's going to take off and run, so they have to stay home, but they're not on the line. Which they would do if you have an immobile quarterback. Sometimes the linebackers get right on the line, but they don't do that with a mobile quarterback, because he could run, he could pass. They stay home, but it opens up yardage, in lanes, because there's not as many people on the line. That's why running backs do a lot better with a mobile quarterback, especially a mobile quarterback that has an arm like Johnny Manziel. They have to respect his arm too. So I think Zach Stacy would be a great pickup. I also like Damian Washington of the Hotshots. He could be another really good pickup. He had a huge week, 10 catches, 156 yards, doing really, really well. And they're showcasing him, obviously. And again, I just really like the Arizona's team. Their record isn't perfect. But every time I watch them play, I say to myself, this team just gets a little bit more organized. They probably have the most balanced team in the league with defense and offense, great coaching. They just had a lot of moving parts. A lot of these teams, it's a new league. I mean, you got to give, these new leagues a break, because it takes a while for them to get their footing. And I've been saying this all along. The Orlando Apollos are probably the front runner in the league because they're the most organized. And they took 12 former Florida Gator players, and they tried to stick with very familiar type of people, and they were very wise in who they chose. And they went more with, schooling and players that knew each other, and it worked out. But these teams are catching up now. And every time I watch Arizona, play, I'm like, wow, this team is so close to really putting it all together. And I just really, really like the team. So I would definitely go with Damian Washington. Also, sticking with Johnny Manziel, which I'll speak to a second. I like Reese Horn of Memphis Express as well. He had a pretty big game, 8 catches, 129 yards. And, they're starting to showcase him. And I just think the team, Mettenberger, they have some guys at quarterback, but I think Johnny Manziel is really going to, help this team. And I know, people have things to say about Johnny Manziel, but I like Reese Horn on the team. They're showcasing him. And, the team is sort of coming together. In the beginning, they were being very careful on offense. Now they're taking more chances. They'll continue to take more chances. I think Singletary's doing a very good job there. I thought, the first few weeks, and it's because of the quarterback that was in there, they were being, Hackenberg, they were being a little conservative, playing towards his strength, but they also were just trying to feel their way out. They had a good running game, good defense. They were trying to dink and dunk a little bit, and Singletary knows that. I'm a huge fan of his. I'm glad he's getting another chance coaching, and the offense is coming alive. I mean, every time I watch that team, I'm like, wow, this team is really growing, and when you think of next year with the AAF, things will be so much more organized, and they were organized already, and they did I think they're doing a fantastic job. I think great rules, and the teams is good quality football, and the coaching's excellent. And you got to give sure they could use a little bit more fans in the stands and things like that, but that will come. It's a new league. It takes time for these things to catch fire. But it's really been great football, and I like Reese Horn. He runs great routes for Memphis, and let's go to Johnny Manziel. Coming in, if he's available, pick him up, because I think he's this is his chance to really shine. He sounds like, he's gone through a lot of different things in his life. He's saying all the right things. Saying and doing the right things are two different things. But I've been saying this, for a number of years now, that, he really never got a shot, with the NFL. And I really don't care what anybody says. The guy really never got a shot. And, yes, he screwed up, that those opportunities a few times, but he still never got a chance to play 3 years in the NFL and see what this guy's really about. He played half a season, he played a handful of games this way, and some of it was because of decisions he made, but he still never got. I always felt if this guy got a few years under his belt, he could come into his own, and we've never seen that. And he's in the Canadian Football League, Montreal, and things weren't really coming together there. He didn't go through training camp. He came in, kind of late. He wasn't being started. Then he was started, and then he switched. The guy's never been given a shot, and I would like to see him. Even now, he's coming in, 7th game into the season, and he has to learn a playbook very quickly. But I'd like to see him come into his own. I'd love to see this guy just be a starting quarterback for a few years to see, what he has. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. And I think if he's available, definitely pick him up. I think he's going to do really, really well. I've talked about Logan Woodside, Arizona. I think he's solid. If you could get your hands on him, I think he's a great pick or a trade. I also like Luis Perez. I know he had a bad couple of weeks, but last week he put up 359 for the Iron, and I really think that Luis Perez, if they start him, you got to watch, because they're flipping quarterbacks back and forth. You got to make sure, that he's the starter. But, he put up 359, and this guy's got a lot of talent. And he was late getting, in there, and them choosing him to be the starter. And this guy, talk about guys that have never really been given their shot. Luis Perez started late in the game, growing up as a quarterback. And this guy, I watch him play. This guy's got talent. But, the problem is with these leagues is a lot of times they want to win games. Coaches have to win, and sometimes they have to make, brash decisions. And guys like Luis Perez, guys like Johnny Manziel, they never really get their shot. And I think they're both, great pickups, if you could pick them up. At tight end, I really like Anthony Denham of the Stallions. They're starting to showcase him more and more. He was a favorite of mine to start the season. He's been up and down, but, that you could say that about a lot of the tight ends in the league. They're, again, trying to find their way in the offense and what's going on. But it really looks like the Stallions are playing some decent football. It really looks like Anthony Denham is going to be used pretty heavily. And if he's available, he's had a couple of down weeks. Last week a little better. If he's available, pick him up, trade for him. These guys got a lot of talent. And, they're going to start tightening up the teams as the season winds down. And in fantasy football, those last 2 weeks, weeks 9 and 10, they're going to start really going with, they're going to start shortening the lineup like they do in the NBA and in the NFL. And they're going to start playing their, primetime players and start showcasing them. So I really like Anthony Denham. The guy's got great hands, great routes. And I really think that you should try to trade for him and pick him up. As far as defense, I like the Orlando Apollos this week against the Atlanta Legends. Atlanta Legends, sometimes it seems like they're figuring it out. Kind of threw up a dud last week, which happens sometimes. But it wasn't a total dud, but, a couple of plays went the other way. We might have been looking at a different game. And that's why you got to watch the games, because the final score wasn't too favorable. I think it was 37-6 against San Antonio. But there was a few plays early in that game that could have, changed the whole wave of that game. So, a couple of bad bounces, and then before you knew it, it was a blowout. But Atlanta's been playing a lot better. Surprised by their showing last week. But it seems like they're a little unorganized. They're trying to figure things out. So I like Orlando, very organized team this week. There's a lot of parity in the games this week as well. And I like Young Hoo Ko of the Atlanta Legends. The guy's the most accurate kicker, if you could get your hands on him, most accurate kicker in the AAF. And, you got to take the points where you could take them. And Atlanta has problems getting into the end zone. And that's what you want from a kicker. But they can move the ball. So, that's pretty much it. The AAF, I keep telling everyone, you got to watch these games. I mean, there's not a lot of people cutting videos, podcasts, information. I also have a blog that I'll release probably early in the morning. But, there's not a lot of people covering it. It's a real shame because the games are really good. It's a professional football league. I could talk all day about the NFL as well, but I also like, watching. I love doing podcasts. I also like watching podcasts. And I just wish it gives you perspective, I didn't think of that. Oh, that's a good idea. I wasn't even, so I'd like to see some of the, major players start covering, a football league that's, an American football league, and, it's great to cover the NFL. I do too. Throw out a show once a week for it, but it would be really great if people covered a professional football league, because I'd like to watch some of the podcasts myself. So anyway, I hope you have a great week 7. After week 8, you have the fantasy football playoffs. I will be definitely covering all of this. I love the games. I think this league's going to last a long time. And hopefully the XFL next year as well. So I want to wish everyone well. Have a great week, and so have yourself a wonderful day.